That's right. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 55. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benesowitz. Thank you guys for coming on over to the podcast. If you're listening, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, Radio.com, all that good shit. And if you're watching, you can find this on YouTube. Just type in Bad Weather Fans, and you can find a video archive of all of these podcasts. Alex, how the hell are you?
Good. How are you? I'm
Wonderful.
excited about this episode. You're good? I didn't hear you. You said you're good?
Yeah,
Okay,
I am
good.
I am good. I like nights where the Nets and Knicks are not playing.
Stress-free.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking this too seriously. I got to stop being so stressed out about like Nets versus T-Wolves on a Monday. Probably not healthy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can get excited once they have a full roster of their talent and see how they gel. My favorite word in NBA. Like they didn't have time to gel. You need more time to gel.
And a lot of guys on this roster that need to gel together, to be honest.
Right. That's true. But we have a special guest. Alyssa Rose will be joining us in a couple of minutes. Ready to talk about some Mets. You know what I'm saying? Wore my favorite sweater, my hoodie. I don't want to say sweater. It's not a sweater. Who wears a sweater? But I'm looking forward to it. Talk some Mets, preview the Mets season. A lot of excitement going on with the obvious story of Francisco Lindor and him turning down 10 for 325. And he wants more. What does he want? 12 for 385 or something? Something crazy. And it's just bizarre. And I wasn't really too fond with Steve Cohen putting the number out there, but you know what? He's forgotten more about negotiating than I will ever negotiate in my entire life.
That's true.
So I gotta just,
that's true.
I was like, I don't know about this one, Steve, but I'm just like, all right, well, you know what? I'm gonna have his, I'm gonna have faith in him for now. He hasn't shown me that he can't do it, so let's go. I mean, the trade for him was incredible in the first place, but.
And Alyssa is the social media correspondent for the Mets, social media host for Sports Grid. So get her insights on the New York Mets. We will talk a little Knicks and Nets on the back end of our interview, so stick around. That's what we'll get into a lot of topics for the Knicks and Nets, a lot of off-the-court topics, too, that we'll dive into. But as far as the Mets are concerned, season starts on Thursday. The Nationals, that's where they'll begin the season. And
I feel like it's always the Nationals.
I do, too.
It's so annoying.
I do, too. It does feel like it's always the Nationals. It's funny you say that. I thought the same thing. I'm like, the Nationals again? Yeah. It did have that kind of vibe. Why is that?
I don't know. I remember Cano hit a homer against the Nationals that one opening day. Like, it's just like a couple of years ago, it's just like, I know they usually open up with a division and, I don't know, but it's annoying. I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, but it'll be exciting to see Big Jake on the mound and let's just mow him down and let's go. Let's get excited for this season. We need games to get us over this Lindor crap. Like, even if he doesn't sign the contract, we just need some stimulation that's not this crap, like, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
What I think will be interesting for a podcast perspective is that you're a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan. So, we did a little bit of the podcast together when the Mets were going on, but they were so crappy last year. And it was such a weird season with what was happening.
That exciting.
They really kind of just fell out of the playoff spot before the season even started, even though there were that many teams involved where 8 teams made the playoffs. It'll be interesting from a podcast side of thing. Like, what's it like to agree on? I'm not saying we're going to agree on every topic. Don't get me wrong. Like, we might I thought it was the right decision to bring in the lefty in the 8th. Whatever, stupid baseball comment.
Well, I'm such a positive fan in nature. So, I always say very positive things all the time about my teams. I don't know if you noticed that. So,
to me, the problem is you are negative, but the positive ones with the Knicks stand out so much more because they're that much more irritating. Like, here's my classic go-to annoying Alex tweets. Brought to you by Mike Biseglia. Here we go. All capitals. Let's go. Top and dunk. Although that part wouldn't be true. Let's go in all caps. Cut it to 4. That really is annoying. I see him more when I'm watching
live
the
tweeting,
Nets.
bro. You got to get in on the live tweeting.
Yeah, live. I'm not live tweeting. Hell no. With my brain not happening. The other ones is after every Knick win. That stupid fucking Allen Houston.
Oh, that's my go-to.
When they beat the Heat, right? Was that a Heat win?
That was
the playoffs.
Off the front rim. And it. Yeah.
Oh, those ones.
Runs down the court. With
the classics. The classic.
Yeah. Your favorite
I don't mind as much.
moment ever.
The trolling ones don't bother me as much anymore because I just laugh at them now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a loving way. But the ones where you're actually excited about the Knicks, God, those are annoying.
Yeah, well, you can follow me, Alex B, at Knicks Central, if you want to see all my annoying tweets. You're at Mike Delivers Pod.
That's right.
And, we talk about everything. Mike has a food delivery podcast, and
That's
I
right.
talk about everything, mostly Knicks, but Mets, Jets, everything, Russell Westbrook apparently a lot lately. And I don't know. So, but anyway, the Mets, are you excited? You're
Of
excited for
course,
the
I'm
season?
excited. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. It'll be tricky now with both games going on, with the Nets playing Thursday night, the
Mhm.
Mets playing Thursday night. Having the dual balance of doing that will be fun and
Big
difficult,
week.
but a good problem to have. I mean, oh my God, like, oh Mike, you have to watch 2 sports teams. You poor man. I get it. It's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited for it.
Mhm.
And I think after last year, with just how disappointing the season was, to not make the playoffs when there's only 60 games and everybody essentially made the playoffs and the offense was finally good and it was the pitching that was a problem for the Mets.
Mhm.
I think that was kind of strange on the back end of how well, with this rotation and everything. So you feel like if they got the rotation a little fortified, Lindor in the lineup. I know the issues that we're talking about with the contract, but he's still going to be playing this year, right? He's
Right.
still in the lineup.
Yeah, he's still
and
there.
then the difficulties with the outfield, bullpen's always a question mark. So it's kind of like, let's roll the dice and see what happens. But before the season starts, for the most part, for like 80% of the teams in baseball, the Pirates, no. But if you're going to get excited, so let's see what happens.
Right. It's just almost like you look at the rotation now. You have DeGrom, Stroman, Syndergaard's hurt, Carrasco's hurt, and you got Tejon Walker and some guys. Peterson's good; he had a good season, but like, it's just you went from the dream rotation, and now we just have DeGrom, and which is not something small. Don't get me wrong. And we always said if any of those 5 up and comers become one of the best pitchers in baseball, it's good. Or even 2, we thought 2 might be. Then we're like, holy crap, look at this rotation.
Right.
But all of a sudden, like 5 years later, from 2005, 6 years later, from 2015, and we have DeGrom, and it's like Syndergaard's, coming back from injury.
Big year for him,
It's
contract year, all the
yeah.
bullshit we've seen from him in the past, the mouth he talks on Twitter, like this
Right.
is a big year for Noah if he wants to turn the corner and make some serious money. Like,
Mhm.
this is a big year for him. He's got to
Stroman
perform.
too. Yeah.
Stroman
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Both of them, and you hope when there's money on the line, they'll step up and pitch well for this season.
It's funny how that works with players, contract years. Somehow they just do everything right. It's insane. I don't know why that happens. Just sign everybody to 1-year deals. That's all you have to do, and that'll solve the problem.
I have my wallet in my pocket, but it's just a cap to my water bottle. So that's not going to work. All right, let's get to the interview. We'll talk about a little Nets Knicks on the back end, but we've got Alyssa Rose, social media correspondent for the Mets, social media host for Sports Grid. We're going to talk some Mets. We'll do it right now here on Bad Weather Fans. All right, it's the Bad Weather Fans podcast, and excited to have on right now Alyssa Rose, social media correspondent for the Mets, social media host for Sports Grid. And of course, we always love talking Nets and Knicks, but we're going to get into baseball because you know what? Major League Baseball is like right around the corner, which is freaky to say out loud. I'm like, I go outside, it's 40 degrees. Then the next day it's 52 degrees. Then it's 80. Who the hell knows? But baseball is here. So Alyssa, we're going to talk some Mets. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to mean good vibes all around for everybody because baseball is here. How are you doing tonight?
2 more sleeps. I'm great. I cannot wait. 2 more sleeps.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, I can't wait to. The beginning of the baseball season is always so exciting, and then by like game 15, you're just like, all right, it's baseball, But the beginning is like very exciting.
Oh my God, no, that's not me. It's like every second that there's no baseball, I'm just counting down to baseball, and then once it starts, I'm like, oh, it's like kind of like 5 months over, or like 4 months till it's over. I'm like depressed waiting for it, and then depressed thinking about it ending.
See, I always see like when the season begins and you're like your team's 3-0 and then the other team's 1-2, and those 2 games back, it feels like it's a 17.5 game lead because everything is so micro analyzed when you've only played like 3 games. I know for me, if like I'm a Mets fan, if the Mets start the season 1-2 and then you see the Braves are 3-0, it's like, oh my God, they're never coming back. But then in reality, it's like, all right, there's 159
Just
more
relax.
of these things. But all the freakouts after only a couple games.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those like live and die by every pitch. Like if like, I don't know, if we're in like the 7th inning and like we've had our starter going the whole time and all of a sudden he starts to lose a little steam, I'm like, that's it. It's over. Like the game's over. Like you haven't even gone to the bullpen yet. Relax. Like I live and die by every pitch.
That's funny. Well, the Mets crush it on opening day, so hopefully we'll get this usual opening day win.
Yeah, best record in baseball by far on opening day. It's like
Isn't
not
it
even
wild?
close.
That's like
no
wild.
one even sniffs it.
I don't understand that, but that's baseball. That's the best thing about baseball is those random
baseball
quirky
season.
stats. Exactly. So let's start off with the obvious Met story. Francisco Lindor. What are your thoughts on the dealings with the contract? I don't really like how Steve Cohen put the contract out there for public consumption. But what are your thoughts overall?
I think that's the beauty of Twitter, right? Is that the fans get to be so looped in on processes that they likely would not be otherwise. The downside is fans are looped into processes that they would not be looped in on otherwise for a specific reason. And that reason is like, we're all freaking out. And it's like, are you mad at Steve Cohen? Are you mad at Lindor? And the moral of the story is like, this is what happens when you trade for a guy who's in a contract year. Like, you have to know that he's going to want to get as much money as he possibly can out of you. And when you are the richest owner in baseball, and not by a little, when you're the richest owner in baseball by far, and you say, we're going to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years, and I'm a top 10 player in the game, I want to see that kind of payday. And so I think you kind of put yourself in a position when you trade for someone who's in a contract year, if you are guaranteeing World Series wins and you're guaranteeing playoff berths and all of that, the guy's going to want his money. Do I think that trying to negotiate a $325 million offer is a little crazy? Yes. But at the same time, like, I'm not his agent. I'm not telling him what market value is. So, you just got to sit back and watch it play out. But yes, this is unnecessary stress that without Twitter, we would not be knowing what's going on right now.
Well, that's a good point, because it's almost as if, you're like, if you were watching the game and your team goes up 2-1, then they go down 3-2, you're feeling the wave of emotion of what's happening behind the scenes with this contract, as opposed to the old days when you didn't have any alerts. You just looked at the box score and go, oh, okay, we won 6-3. You didn't have to feel all that stress in between. So I would you agree that it's unfair to everybody, because we now know where we are in the middle of this talks, as opposed to if we just found out tomorrow that it ended up being 11 years, 330 with all these different little variables that happens, we'd be like, okay, that was great. But we're moving back the curtain and we're like behind the scenes with these guys.
Think of it like when you're a kid and you're sitting with your mom and she's talking to her friend and she's talking about a story that you don't fully understand. And you just really want her to fill you in on what's going on. And she's like, don't worry about it, sweetie. And it's because like, it's something that you probably shouldn't know about. And in hindsight, as an adult, you're like, okay, like she didn't tell me that specific story or go into detail, because at the time I was not old enough to either comprehend it or I would have worried about it. Like, there are situations that like you don't always need to know everything going on all the time. And like, it doesn't, in my opinion, improve the fan experience to know these things. I want to know what's going on the field. I want to know who's injured. I want to know who we might be going after in a trade. That stuff's all cool. But when it's like, I want to love Lindor and I want to love Steve Cohen, and now it's like, I'm almost forced to have an opinion or pick sides or something like that. Like, that's not a situation I want to be in as a fan.
Right. The positive vibes going into the season kind of got sucked out over the last 2 days. Like, we need games.
Of course,
like,
it's the Mets. It's the Mets.
It's always something. Yeah,
something was going to happen.
It can't just be easy. You get the richest owner in baseball, still controversy. It doesn't matter. So I don't know. Yeah. And it's hard to look other fans in the face and turn down a 10-year, $325 million contract. It's really hard.
And like, he wants Tatis money, which I get.
Older. Yeah.
He's 5 years older than Tatis. Yeah. It's like, you've got to take these things into consideration. It's not apples to oranges.
Tatis is better.
I mean, listen, maybe. Maybe.
That's my guy. So
when it gets to the point where it's like, 10 years, 12 years, we're talking about silly money. What is it at this point that it's about? Is it about showing the pride of getting to a contract at that level? Because when you're talking about that kind of money, like, I don't know, I imagine it doesn't make a difference. Everybody's set for life in your family. There's nothing to worry about if you have responsibility for yourself. What do you think it becomes when it gets to 325 to 385? What is that all about at that point?
I think you need to have a certain level of ego just to make it to the big leagues in general. I think in order to be a superstar athlete in any sport, you need to really have an ego. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes the ego also can become your detriment. And I think it's also like his agent wants the most amount of money too. And his agent is profiting off of his contract. So if he says, Tatis got this money, like his agent's eating cake forever off of it. Like, it's like you have these conflicting voices in your head when at the end of the day, yes, to you, me, or anyone else walking down the street, it's like, bro, it's $325 million to swing a bat and flash some leather. Just take it, bro. Like, just take it. But, there's obviously a side to the business that we're not a part of.
Yeah, it stinks because, like I said, the positive vibes kind of got sucked out. But you know what? There's still a lot of positive things for the Mets going into the season. Dom Smith,
totally.
Conforto. Hopefully they can re-sign. I did like Steve Cohen how he said, "Well, we'll just extend Conforto and win the World Series." So whatever. Like if he doesn't,
and if that's the case, by the way, I was saying this earlier, like, how do you feel if you're Conforto right now? Mm-hmm. That you're seeing how much money they're offering Lindor,
right?
And it's like, yeah, like we'll just give the rest of it to Conforto. Like, no, Conforto is a stud, and like we all want him to be a Met for life. I don't think there's a single. Yeah. He's our guy. Right. I don't think there's a single person who doesn't want this Conforto extension to happen. So, like, yes, I understand that Lindor is a top 10 player in the league, and it's super exciting that the Mets have him, and it was a blockbuster trade. But, like, let's not make Conforto feel like a chump. Like, let's make sure that he's just as much of a priority because he's our guy, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. How would you give an overall grade for the Mets going into this season with the huge expectations with the offseason, the Lindor trade that happened right away, and people got mega pumped about it, to where we are now, 36 or 2 sleeps away from the season starting? How would you base it or give a grade if you want to on how the Mets did in this offseason?
I mean, I think we're all relatively the same age. I would say that this is by far the best offseason in our lifetime, right? Like, I don't think it's particularly close. This is the best offseason in our lifetime. That being said, I really need everyone to shut up about how high these expectations are. If you're a Mets fan, you are primed for disappointment. Like, the Braves are very good.
The NL East is
nobody is stacked. Nobody is giving the Braves the credit they deserve. They made it to the NLCS last season, and they almost made it to the World Series. Like, the Braves are not a joke. People call them the baby Braves because they're young. They're only going to get better. So the fact that we are completely just discounting the Braves now and saying, yeah, obviously the Mets are winning the NL East, it's crazy. Like, yes, they absolutely have the pieces in place to compete, but to just go ahead and declare ourselves the winners of the NL East before a single pitch is thrown. I know I always joke that, like, I'm planning the World Series parade, but, like, that's crazy. And the expectations have to be managed because the Atlanta Braves are going to be a problem with a capital P.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Go ahead, Mike.
See, that's what makes the Met fans so great is they'll have the expectations that we're going to win the division. Of course, we're going to win the division, but then at the same time have the thoughts of our offseason sucked. It wasn't good enough. We didn't do this. But then have the mindset like, yeah, we can beat the Braves. We're going to go in there. And then expectations get all over the place. People get, like crazy about what's going to happen. And then you get into the season. In this season in particular, coming off last year where we only played 60 games, we're going to start having fans back. I mean, you could just feel like there's a boiling point from the Met fans. Steve Cohen's here, the Lindor trade. It's like all coming together. So this season, to me in particular, it could go in all these different directions. And it's like, you just gotta wait and watch this. What could be a crazy ride for this baseball season.
Totally. I get very angry when people who claim to be huge Mets fans talk about what a bad offseason this was, because to me, that just means, okay, like you like the Mets, like you cheer for the Mets, you want the Mets to win, but you're not a baseball fan. If you are an actual fan of the game of baseball and you understand, what's needed for a team to be successful and the players from other teams, that you could take a look at what the Mets have done this offseason and say it was a bad offseason, you're not a baseball fan. You cheer for the Mets, you're happy when they win, but like get out of here with that. This was a phenomenal offseason.
Right. And James McCann is like one of those under the radar signings that like people don't really understand.
Oh my God.
Like he's really good. Like,
he's
his numbers
really
compared
good.
to Real Multo,
I think a lot really good.
Yeah. I think a lot of fans were upset because everybody was like going into this offseason, like, we're going to buy everybody. We're going to get Springer. We're going to get Real Multo. We're going to get everybody.
I was upset about Springer. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of stunk. But you know what? Nemo's our guy, like we said, and he's going to give it his 110%. And that's all we can really ask for from him.
That's true. No one will work harder than Brandon Nemo.
Yeah,
it's exciting to have a catcher see them throw guys out at second base, get runners out. I mean, the thought of like somebody trying to steal and not getting to second base. I mean, those are the little nuances of things in the game that will make a difference when it's 3-2 as opposed to 3-1 going into the 8th, 9th inning. That's a big deal right there.
It's a big deal. It's huge. McCann was a massive signing, and I actually wanted no part of Real Muto.
Really?
So right after Steve Cohen officially became the owner, right after, and everyone and their mother knew that the Mets were going after a catcher, the first thing he said was, I want a $200 million contract. And he's absolutely not worth that. You just knew that Steve Cohen had the money. And to me, like, that is not the way you want to start off a relationship. Like, that is just the wrong foot to say, like, I'm going to milk you for every penny you have, regardless of whether or not I'm worth it. And I actually wonder if that's why the Mets didn't make a huge push for him. The second he came out and said that, I wanted no part of him.
Right. And that's the thing that Steve Cohen has to do with this Lindor negotiation. He's got to set the precedent. Like, yeah, I have billions and billions of dollars more money than anybody. I can, like, he can sell that painting that was behind him during the Q&A and probably sign Lindor. But you know what? He has to set the precedent that people can't take advantage of him just because he's a billionaire.
Correct.
You know,
listen, there's a reason he's a billionaire. It's because he doesn't get taken advantage of. He's an unbelievable businessman. He fully said, it's our best and final. You don't want to take it? Sorry. Like, go get 325 from someone else. Go get 385, whatever he wants from someone else.
Yeah, it's
in New York, right? And he's got the market. He's got the owner. I mean, I don't know what he's looking for, but yeah, go ahead.
And the Mets have the pitcher, and Jacob deGrom. It's every time he goes out, it's an event. I mean, that's an exciting. You know, every fifth day when he's out there on the mound, it's an event. You're watching, saying, okay, I'm watching greatness. I'm watching a guy that's another future Hall of Famer out here for the Mets that goes about, does his business, does it the right way. Just your excitement level watching deGrom again take the mound, just how precious these moments are that we get to. And I think, and I'll interrupt myself here because I'm thinking about this. I think we take for granted how good he is. It's like we talk about how good he is and we see the numbers, but we kind of forget, like, hey, this guy's in the midst of unbelievable career, and just the excitement to watch Jacob deGrom go on the mound every night.
Yeah. It's interesting that Matt Harvey always compared himself to Derek Jeter, like, in terms of, like, the way that he wanted to, like, approach New York. And, like, Matt Harvey was the anti-Derek Jeter. Like, Jacob deGrom is Derek Jeter. Like, you don't hear a word from him. Right. You don't know anything about his personal life. You know he's happily married with a couple of kids. But, like, he just goes out there and plays baseball, and then he shuts his mouth. And then he speaks again 5 days later before the game and after the game, after he, pitched like 7 scoreless shutout innings. Like, he is a professional baseball player. That's what he is.
Right.
And he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Like Syndergaard.
And a little different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, Syndergaard was showing up with, like, the ripped body and, the long hair and feuding on Twitter with other players. And he's not doing any of that. And it's just crazy from that dream rotation we thought we were going to have. That deGrom is pretty much the last one standing. I know Syndergaard's still here, but he's coming back from injury, wants to get paid. I don't know if he deserves it, et cetera, but deGrom's our guy. I mean, with the rotation is kind of scary. What's your thoughts on Stroman coming back? I feel like the Mets kind of were mad at him for opting out, which they can't really be mad at him because he was worried about his health and safety. But what are your thoughts on Stroman coming back this year?
I think Stroman talks a really, really, really big game, and it's going to be really, really embarrassing if he doesn't back it up. Like, I think that he absolutely has the ability to back it up, but he has talked so much at this point now. And I don't say that in a negative way. Anyone who has Twitter, they see his tweets.
He's a New Yorker, Long Island
He's a
guy.
New Yorker, exactly. He has talked so much. And that's another thing where Twitter can get you in trouble when all you talk about is that you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. And he said he was a top 2 free agent, I believe, that was going to be available this season. When you talk up your game that much, you have no choice but to back it up. So I'm going to be his biggest fan and his biggest cheerleader and just hope that he's got the stuff to back up what he said. I have nothing against him. I think he's a great guy, but when you talk, you have to back it up.
And with that in mind, do you think the Mets dodged a bullet then not signing Bauer?
I mean, I was a very big proponent of signing Trevor Bauer just because, like, we just talked about, like, our pitching has always come back to haunt us somehow. No matter how good the rotation is, no matter how special it's supposed to be, it just doesn't get there. And so when you have a Cy Young Award winner who's available to come join the team, yes, obviously, like, I think that Bauer would have been a great addition. But if we're talking about things that could potentially be a distraction, I have no issue with his personality. I've been very vocal about the fact that I have no issue with his personality. But people do. And again, like, that's not the kind of thing that you want people focused on. So I wouldn't necessarily say they dodged a bullet. I think having good pitching is never a problem. But I do think, like, yes, they get to avoid that aspect of him.
Right. And going into the season, they thought they were going to have Carrasco, and then he goes down. And now we're like, oh, man, now we really wish we signed Bauer. But at the same time, I don't want to deal with the shtick of like him closing his eyes and throwing a pitch and almost killing somebody in training in spring training. Did you see that? He like closed his eyes or something. It was something like silly things like that.
He does silly things.
But it's like Syndergaard. He does the same kind of silly things. The Mets fans seem to like him, love him. I mean, I like him too, but it's a little too much talking, like you were saying, and not as many results. He had like one and a half great years, and then what has it been since?
I'm a big fan of consistency. Yeah, and I think that the Mets have lacked quite a bit of that.
Any concerns with the Mets in the outfield on a defensive perspective? Not making the splash as we talked about earlier in the podcast to bring Springer in, Dom out in left field, and what the troubles that could bring with the Mets outfield on the defensive side.
Yeah, it's a super big concern, which is why I say you can't discount the Braves and just talk about how the Mets are going to run away with the whole thing. Like, the Mets still have holes that need to be filled. They are not a perfect team on paper by any stretch of the imagination. We're just really excited because they have a ton of potential, but we're absolutely not going to get, 162 games without talking about the fact that Nimmo missed a really easy play in center, or that Dom is not a natural outfielder. Like, there are going to be those moments. You just have to hope that other teams have them too.
Right. Dom Smith is not exactly Daniel Murphy in left field, but he's not exactly.
Well, that was.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
There was this season where ESPN did a not top 10 just of Daniel Murphy defensive plays. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, Murphy would either make the biggest bonehead play or the most incredible play you've ever seen in your life.
It was unbelievable.
But what are you thinking about the Mets bench so far? You have Pilar, Villar, Guillorme, some guys like that. Is there anybody that you're excited about that can come up out of nowhere that you're thinking about? What are your thoughts?
So excited about Guillorme. I said it before last season started. They said, do you think anyone's going to have a breakout season in 2020? And I said Guillorme.
Wow.
The energy, I will never forget it. I want to say August of 2019, the Mets were in a really tight push to get into the playoffs at that point against the Nationals. And Guillorme came up and hit a game-tying home run, I think in the 9th. And that was probably the most electric I've ever seen Citi Field, playoffs notwithstanding. It was one of those moments that you will just never, ever forget as a sports fan, being in the stadium for that moment. And to me, that just ignited the Luis Guillorme trajectory. The players love him. He gets along so well with everyone in the clubhouse, and he's a monster on both sides of the ball. Like, I really have very high hopes for Guillorme.
He seems like he's 50 years old, but he's really kind of young.
He's super young. And his dad is in the mix on Twitter. Luis Guillorme Sr. Oh, it's so funny. And they both follow me. So anytime I tweet about it, like, I always get alerts that one of them is liking or responding. And I'm like, it's the dad or is it him? It's so cute.
That's incredible. Then that's also wild too, when guys are in the league and like their parents are tweeting out and, they're still young enough. I mean, that whole experience there was bizarre.
What makes it even funnier is that Guillorme, the player, his Twitter handle is like El Guillorme 13 or whatever, but his dad's is Luis Guillorme. So like, I get very confused.
Right.
And it's like all Met stuff in the profile. You can't figure out which one's which.
It's like proud father of Luis, and I forget his other son's name, but it's very funny.
When you reference that 2019 season, which feels like it was a million forever ago, but that season too had so many electric moments that the expectations then going into 2020 were such a disappointment. But getting back to that 2019, the electric moments, that amazing feel. Now 2021 is going to be a little bit different as we start to have fans trickle back into the ballpark. But what do you think it'll be like just in general, just to see fans at the ballpark and the concept of that? And like I mentioned this earlier in the episode, fans just boiling to cheer about something, and what that's going to be like for fans back at Citi.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to be like the greatest feeling in the entire world. My friend and I were talking the other day. We were like, I cannot wait to spend $20 on a 16-ounce beer and like $75 on a single chicken nugget. Yeah, I mean, just let the stadium vendors take all my money. I will never complain about the prices at a stadium again. I just want to be in a packed place. Well, not packed yet, but in a place with a lot of fans, social distanced place where people are just happy to be watching their team play. And like, I live in Miami, so I'm going to be going to Marlins Park, or they just changed the name today, like Lone something, whatever. I will be calling it Marlins Park. Like, I can't wait to go to Marlins Park and just like, I'll watch the Marlins play anyone. I don't care. Like, give me like a Marlins Pirates game. I'm in. Just give me baseball in front of my face. I think it's going to be huge for the players too. Baseball is one of those sports where like, it's not like basketball where it's, you know, there's constant action and you're moving back and forth. Like, baseball really relies on the energy of the crowd because there's so much time in between everything that I think it's going to really change the game this season.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know, a couple more things about the Mets, like the pitching staff, the bullpen. It's kind of scary. Lugo's out for a little while. Edwin Diaz had a good season last year, but like Mike said, it was a really short season. So who knows? Like, you know, Alonso struggled last year too, but who knows if he could have turned it on. But Edwin Diaz as a closer, obviously not Mets fans don't have a lot of confidence in him, myself included. But he did crush it last year. What are your thoughts on him?
I think that baseball is so mental. And I think that's why it was a great thing that the Mets traded Steven Matz, because I don't think that Steven Matz isn't a good pitcher anymore, but I think that Steven Matz was never going to succeed in New York because it was just in his head.
Yeah. The family.
Especially for a pitcher. Yeah. He was just in his head. And I think that Diaz has gotten out of his head a little bit. And that success last season is going to propel him now into success this season. And by the way, it's not talked about enough. Do you know who Diaz worked with all offseason before last year?
Hakeem Olajuwon. No, I don't know who.
Pedro. So when Pedro is the one that you're taking kind of like tips on your mechanics from, like, that's a good person to learn from. Yeah. I would assume that they did not speaking after last season ended. So I think that when you're getting your head in the right place, the world's starting to come back to normal. You feel more comfortable. You feel more in your element. And one of the best pitchers of all time is the person who's kind of helping you along. You're in a good spot. So I'm going to.
He played here. He knows the deal. You know, he knows everything.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to be fully confident in Edwin Diaz until he gives me a reason not to be.
I mean, watching that 2 seasons ago, you can just tell, like, rattled on the mound based on the around you. I mean, then I think too, as me as a fan, like, I started feeling anxious because I saw him anxious, and then I'm like, there's all these fans in there, and I wonder too if last year it helped a little bit with nobody there staring him down, to kind of ease that feeling and that anxiety. So I think, I mean, this year to me is like, this will be the season. Fans are trickling back. Is it helpful in his head? Because if he becomes that guy that's a dominant closer, I mean, it just changes the whole feel of the bullpen, the whole feel of the season. And then that deal they made a couple of years ago doesn't feel as painful, and boom, off you go. Very different feel for the New York Mets this year.
Exactly. Like, we need to feel okay about not having Kelenic, because when we see the highlights this season, and there's going to be a lot of them, that's just bomb after bomb after bomb and defensive play after defensive. I mean, he is going to be an absolute superstar within 2 to 3 years from now. Mm-hmm. We need to feel like, because obviously we know what we got with Cano, like, we need to feel like Diaz is worth it. And by the way, was I the only person in the world who just didn't think that Cano was juicing? Because he stunk in 2019. And then he was great in 2020. And it's like, well, he got even older and now he's good. So that must make sense. Like, I was shocked. And like, why? I had no right to be shocked. It wasn't the first time he's done it. And he improved after his, can I curse? He improved after his shit year, like, being even older. So like, I'm an idiot.
Well, no, you're not.
No, you're not. I think we all are. I mean, we all are to a certain
extent. We're all dumb. We're all very dumb.
But if you think about it too, it's like, and it shouldn't come as a surprise when we see second-time offenders, because it's like they're addicted to it, addicted to the drug, addicted to the high of playing well, addicted to wanting to be a star in New York again. So when you look back on it, it's like that Kaiser Sose moment where you're kind of like, oh yeah, we should have seen this coming. Of course he was on steroids. Now it all makes sense. We should have seen all of this.
Here's an idea. Take the $24 million that you're saving by not having to pay Cano this season, give it to Lindor, and get the deal done.
Right. The plus Cano extension.
So easy. It's
right.
easy.
320 so plus easy. 24 from Cano. That's how you get
They taught me that in math class. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh man, that's so funny. So what are your realistic expectations for the Mets this year? Realistically.
Realistic expectations, I think the Mets will win about 90 games.
I agree.
That's realistic. I think anything over 92, 93 is crazy. I think anything under 86 would be a real big failure. So that's my sweet spot. It's like 90 games.
And unlike basketball, I mean, like with baseball, I think if you get in the playoffs, then it's just up for grabs for every team that makes it. You know, basketball, there's going to be 4 or 5 teams that can only win a championship, and that's pretty much it. So I would say for the Mets, just to be a successful season, get in the playoffs and then roll the dice and see what happens.
Right. I don't care if it's the wild card spot. Just get into the playoffs.
Yeah, because you never know who can get hot.
Exactly,
and you have DeGrom going 2 or 3 times in a series, and let's go. Let's see what happens.
I mean, think about it. Yeah. Who had heard of Randy Arozarena before the postseason last year? And he is pretty much the only reason that the Rays got as far as they did. Who knew who he was? It's like you need one guy to get hot at the right time.
Yeah, I feel like the Rays are constantly changing players anyway. So it's like one of those teams that's just like,
I don't understand what goes on in that organization at all. Getting rid of Blake Snell was, I mean, if I'm a Rays fan, it's inexcusable. Like I am like taking a year off from the team at that point. Yeah. Like they do not treat their fans well at all.
No, I'm playing third base for third base for the Rays, but we'll still win 93 games somehow and make the playoffs and be a pain in the ass for everybody.
It's crazy.
Well, Alyssa,
whatever, as long as they screw the Yankees. Well,
Alyssa, we enjoyed the conversation. We'll have to catch up and do it again when further down the line in the season. We'll see how the hell things are going. But I liked what you said before. 2 sleeps away. I guess if people are listening to this, they could be 1 sleep away or maybe 0 sleeps away. So thank you again.
Happy opening day if that's the case. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Alyssa.
Sure.
Thank you, Alyssa, for coming on the podcast. Bad Weather fans, Alex, we will definitely have to keep in touch as this season progresses, and hopefully it'll be positive Mets news to talk about a month, 2 months from now when we're 20, 40 games into the into the season.
Even if it's positive, it's negative. It's just somehow, like Alyssa was saying, there's always something. There's always something that comes up.
Oh, there'll be something else. By the time this podcast comes out, and they're 2 days later,
tomorrow,
there'll be something.
Within 1 sleep, there'll be another controversy.
1 sleep. There is a lot of something with the Knicks and Nets going on.
Yes.
For not many games, I guess. Kind of a busy, hectic week. The Knicks lost to the Miami Heat. The Knicks fall to 24-23, still in the mix for top 4 seed.
Yeah.
The Nets hold on versus Minnesota. They improved to 32-15. Where do you want to go to start, Alex? Do you want to do a little Knicks? Do you want to talk about Kevin Durant on Twitter, or do you want to talk about the Nets signing Lamarcus Aldridge? You get the pick. I'll give you.
Let's start with Aldridge, since that's the freshest take that's out there. I mean, everybody's going crazy that he signed there, and it is kind of like, come on already. I know Blake Griffin came out and said, he's like, everybody's been telling me I've been trashed for the last 3 years. So I don't know why all of a sudden this is such a big deal that I signed.
Fair point. It's actually a really smart point.
Yeah. He took a lot. He's been thinking about that line for a long time, but like, it's he's got a good point, but at the same time, it's like, you sign these guys that are former all-stars. They've been around the block, they're playoff experience. They know their role right now at this point in their career. And they're going to do it. They're not like, I don't want to slander him, but they're not like Bobby Portis, who's trying to become and get paid and nail some threes.
He wants to win the title.
Yeah, they're just like, this is it. We want to get here. We want to do this. Let's stack this team. Let's win this ring, and let's do it. You know what I mean? So that's why, it's kind of messed up. It would have been even worse if they got Drummond. But like, yeah.
Let me. I have a lot of thoughts on this. A lot of thoughts.
Go for it. Let's hear it. Let's hear those thoughts.
First off, I guess this has been going on in the NBA forever. So this idea that like people are like the Nets are the first team to do this is completely false.
No, absolutely false.
This has been going on forever in the NBA. So this is not new. This is not like the Nets are doing this now. I think what Blake said is really smart. But where I kind of boil it down to is like, what's Sean Marks supposed to do, right? like he has an opportunity to sign Blake Griffin and Lamarcus Aldridge. He's going, you know what?
Nah,
I'm
it's
not going to
fair.
do it because there's people on Twitter, Knicks 3 for clicks, whatever. There's Knick fans on Twitter. There's other fans on Twitter that are to get annoyed. You know what? Hey, let me call the Bucks. Hey, Milwaukee, you can have them. What is he supposed to do?
No, he's not.
Guys want to come here. He has the space and
he
the
knows
money
this is
to
the year.
do it.
Yeah.
This is the year to do it. This has been going on in the NBA. It's not illegal. Like, I don't understand the people that are mad at the Nets. This is part of the business with this. I'd be more frustrated with the Nets if they were like, yeah, we don't want him. We feel bad. I think he's better if he's on the Sixers. This way we won't piss people off around the league. Are you crazy? I mean,
I think
imagine Sean Marks being like, oh, you know what? Let's not go after Blake. I think he's a better fit in Milwaukee, and that would be more fair for the league. Are you out of your mind? Like, okay, you pissed at the NBA for how the system works. Fine, but don't get mad at the Nets. They're just now one of the teams that has the luxury and the flexibility to do this. Okay, that's all I want to say about that.
No, you're right, and don't be mad at the Nets. I mean, it's annoying, and you want to hate on them and root against them, and be my guest. I will be doing that, but it's the NBA rules that are ridiculous, where you can just buy out a guy. You know what I mean? And just like, that's what's ridiculous. I mean, and the players take less money to do it, and they get to go to a team to chase a ring, and that's their right in the CBA. They collectively bargained for the buyout and to have the option, instead of just wasting away on some random team and being in 12th place and just being like, all right, well, I guess I'll go work out today at the gym. It's just like, it's just, I get it from both perspectives, but it's just weird. There's no other sport. I mean, I guess baseball is kind of like that, where you have the trade deadline. Oh, it's a trade deadline. And then all of a sudden, why are there trades still being? Oh, the waivers trade deadline, and it's just like there's the other trade deadline. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, why can't we just have a trade deadline?
I agree with you.
It's just, it's so weird. So it's just those weird things like that just doesn't make any sense to me. But it's a business. You know what I mean? It's just
Sean Marks' job is to get the Nets to win a championship. That's what he was hired to do. Nothing else. I would just love to see the conversations. Hey, Lakers, we don't want them. We feel bad. I mean, we feel really bad. There's people on Twitter that are saying the Nets are cheating. I don't think we're going to sign Lamarcus. I know Lamarcus wants to come here, and we have the flexibility to do it, but there's some people on Twitter angry. So we're not going to make the deal. Good luck, Milwaukee. You can take them. We'll see you down the line.
Right. And it's not
what?
Yeah. The anger is at the wrong place. I mean, you can be mad at the Nets because of what they're doing, because they're winning and they keep adding good players. Fine. Be like jealous of them. Sure. But don't get mad at the team. You can be mad at the players for having this, like, let's all gang together and win a title kind of a thing that we all hated on LeBron for doing with the decision. I'm sure you didn't like it either. I didn't know you then, but I can imagine you didn't like it. Not many people did. And it's just that whole dynamic, which LeBron wasn't the first one to do a big three and stack a team. Like, look at all the Lakers, look at the Celtics, look at there's so many teams that did that before him, but it's just the way he did it. People didn't like it. They kind of orchestrated their way. And that's the kind of like the way the NBA's been since then. And it's just, people don't really like that kind of style of like, hey, let's all join together. But then it's like, in other sports, you see it all the time. You see like the Dodgers, they're win the World Series and they're adding Trevor Bauer. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, well, this would be like, nah, it's not fair. We get this Cy Young Award winner. Like, forget it. Let's just,
because other teams,
like, you got a point.
Other teams are moving forward too. Milwaukee signed Teague. They traded for PJ Tucker. Like, they're making moves to get stacked up and go into the playoffs. Like,
Lakers got Drummond.
This is what's happening. I mean, could you imagine the Miami Heat being like, Ray Allen wants to come here? No, that's not fair. It's not fair to get Ray Allen. You know what? He's a little past his prime. He's not the player he was when he was at the Sonics or Bucks. Not even close to the Celtics. But we shouldn't have Ray Allen. No, they got him, and he fucking helped them win a championship versus the Spurs.
Biggest shot in franchise history.
Oh my God, this is what happens. I think it freaks people out because there's a stigma that the Nets are the Nets. So I think there's added extra anger from other people. Maybe I'm seeing it from a Knicks fan base that's piling on the Nets because that irritates them even more because it's the little brother doing this.
Well, we do the poll question every episode, and we did one earlier. I don't know what episode it was. They all meshed together now, but are the Nets like the most hated team in the NBA? And who's the most hated team in the NBA? It was like the Lakers, Nets, whoever. And the Nets weren't even close to the winners. But I bet you if I do that poll today,
I bet it changed.
It's 95% Nets. You know what I mean? It's because now they're the team that everybody hates. They're the Miami Heat with LeBron. They're the, named the Warriors, what they were when they signed Kevin Durant. It's just funny how Kevin Durant's around all.
I know, right?
I mean?
He's moving it.
Yeah, even though he said nobody wants to play with superstars. You said he addressed that tweet where he said nobody wants to play with, everybody wants to play with superstars now. What
I think he did something where he had an emoji and he was like, "Oops," something like that.
Okay, yeah, like where maybe he like said something like, "Well, why do you think I fucking did it?" You know what I mean? Because everybody's doing it. That's the only way I can win. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know. It's that kind of mentality. People like always like that. Like old people like us. We're the old ones now. Like back in the 90s.
We're the old ones.
Yeah, well, think about it. When we were growing up in the 90s, the 70s felt like, oh my God, that's so long ago. Right now, the 90s was the 70s to kids when we were kids.
That's
you know what I mean? It's just,
okay.
Is that weird to think about?
That's freaking me out a little.
So it's, in the 90s, you felt like you got a superstar on each team and they didn't leave, until Barkley got older and he left and tried to win a ring with the Suns, But you had like Ewing, you had Robinson, you had, Mutombo bounced around, whatever. But you had these guys like Drexler, he bounced around. I'm giving bad examples, but I feel you. There were you had the Sonics, Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. They didn't want to break up. They got they broke them up. Traded Kemp to the Cavs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they all wanted to stay and win in their own team and stay with their own fan base. Now it seems like they're all like kind of like, hey, under the radar, hey, bro, like, yo, Devin. Come, come to the, this team in 3 years, and Devin Booker's like, no, and he's probably like, I'm all the Suns. And then in 3 years, he's signed with like, the Raptors, and it's just like, what's happening, So
no,
that's
I
the
agree.
kind of aspect that people hate,
I agree. And I think it was, I liked it better that way. I wouldn't disagree with you.
Right.
I think you could somehow get back to that, but it's impossible now. It's a player driven league and you're not going to do that. Don't forget Barkley too on the Rockets. At the very tail end,
try to get a ring.
Yeah, but this is going like Peyton and Malone trying to go to the Lakers when they were well past their primes. Those were even bigger additions. These are for the Nets.
Steve Nash and Dwight Howard went to the Lakers too at one point. So like the Nets are not the first ones to do it. So, but still, screw them. But that's all I have to say.
No, I hear you, but it just I got frustrated a little bit when I was like, what is, I come back to the point, but this is Sean Marks's job. And also to the fact of this, like the Nets the fact that they could get to this point took a lot of hard work. It wasn't just like they had this team. They had a team that had no first round picks and no talent. And they flipped it to this. That's an win or lose a title. And I guess if they lose and they lose all those draft picks, then it will be a failure ultimately for Sean Marks.
Right.
But just to go from no draft picks to players guys have never heard of to this point took a lot of creativity and a lot of work. And the reason they were able to get Harden is because when they signed Kyrie and Durant, they did not give up any assets when they brought them in. They had a full deck of cards. And when they made the deal for Harden, they had those pieces they could trade. And that's the kudos to Marks, where he's able to get the third star in because he didn't have to give up draft picks to get Kyrie and Durant. And that was the key to making this deal happen.
Right. And you say it all the time, and props to you. You kind of like, you can argue any point. Like if you're mad about something, you can argue the negative. You can argue the positive. You can argue, whatever. Like people are always saying, oh, certain stats are not important. Like triple doubles. Oh, triple doubles. It was like the unbreakable record, right? What's his name? Who had the average Oscar Robinson average a triple double. And everybody's like, it'll never happen again. It'll never happen again. Russell Westbrook does it consistently, and now it's like, triple doubles. That doesn't even mean anything. He gets selfish rebounds. He sucks. Like, Andre Drummond goes 20 and 20 consistently. It's like, he's not a winning player. Look at his win shares. It's just like, come on, man. Like these guys are good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, shut the. It's just, it just drives me crazy. You know what I mean? It's just like the sensitivity and like the weirdness of people who like want to like, my team doesn't want him, and we're just gonna agree. Like I'm talking about Knicks fans right now. Some Knicks fans like. They just want to always agree with the team, like whatever the team says they do. And obviously sometimes I get mad and I say some things on Twitter or to friends or to you that I don't always mean. And that, I kind of just let my emotions get the best of me, but I'm a passionate fan. And it's just like, stop believing everything that they're doing. It's okay to admit that Mitchell Robinson is injury prone. It's okay. Like, it'll be all right. Yes, maybe he doesn't miss 20 to 30 games a year, like I said on my tweet, but like, that doesn't mean I need to be called a sex offender. Like, somebody tweeted me, like, you're like once, like, I'm like, what are you talking? Like, just because I said a player is injury prone and you disagree, it's a subjective term anyway. That doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person. Like, you know what I'm saying? People are just out of control. Like, you know what I mean? It'll be okay. It's okay to admit if your team has a fault. It's okay to admit if your team or your player, your favorite player, is not as good as you thought he was. You know what I mean? It's okay. And like, I'm at fault sometimes. Like, you'll hold that, like, you know, that torch as long as you possibly can. Like, no, Ewing could still do it. We should keep him. And they trade him. And, you know, obviously they shouldn't have made the trade, but like, you know what I mean? He was done. You know what I'm saying? It's just things like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just the weirdest kind of, you know, people just have to chill and just like grow up a little bit.
And I'll admit, when I was wrong, I mean, I would say, like, and I think I was using too much of seeing my own team and not realizing what was on the outside. And I use that example with the Harden deal. Like, clearly that was benefited the Nets. If the Nets don't trade for James Harden, they're probably like the 6th seed or the 7th. They're probably somewhere in that mix at 500. I mean, they probably
be a mess
are
right now if they trade for James Harden. They would be a mess.
I would imagine, like, knock on wood, I hate doing this scenario going down this road, but LeVert wouldn't be playing because they caught something, right? Like, he wouldn't even be on the court.
God forbid. Yeah, that would have been horrible.
It'd be Jared Allen, who I like, but it's like, he's not leading a team to wins. You know, he's not at that
What's
level.
What's his win share? Are you big on this?
No. I don't know the answer to that, but
I know.
To your point, like, we get too invested in and not see the bigger picture with stuff. So I completely agree with that. I do.
Yeah. No, it's just people are, you know, whatever. People are emotional. They love their teams, and that's fine. And you know what I mean? It is what it is. It's just people just have to relax. You know what I mean? Like, Mitchell Robinson, I love him. I wish him well. I hope he comes back soon. But this is now his 2nd surgery in the season. This is his 3rd year. He's missed a couple. He's always banged up. Like, he might not have long-term injuries. Somebody said he's played like 80% of his games in his career, and that's fine. But like, if you're missing like 3 games here, 2 games there, this, that, and it's just like, how can you count on the guy? You know what I mean? So it's just, you know, I love him, and I hope that I might have Marcus Camby PTSD, which he's not Marcus Camby. Mitch Robinson is not on his level, like, no way, but not yet, at least. You know what I mean? So like, but like Marcus Camby, when he was here, obviously he was drafted by the Raptors, but when he was with here and he had he led them on that finals run. He was like one of the key contributors to that finals run in '99, but he got hurt 2 years in a row. And then Nick said, you know what? Stupid trade, obviously, in hindsight. Let's get McDyess, you know, in here, and let's get rid of Camby. He's never going to be healthy. And it's just like, all of a sudden he goes on and wins Defensive Player of the Year, leads the league in blocks almost every season. We're just like, God damn, we need a center, you know? And it's just, so that's why I'm kind of nervous in trading him and giving up on him. But also, like, I don't know if the Knicks can really plan to just like, this is our guy. You know what I mean? I don't know how, like, what do you think about that?
I'll use your expertise in, like, watching every day with Mitchell Robinson. I wouldn't rely on him to be. What do you mean by their guy? I guess let me ask you with that. Like is like the starting center for the team for the future?
Yeah, like, I don't know when his contract's up. I think it's either after this year or next year, and they have to pay because he was a 2nd-round pick, so he doesn't have the same protections that a 1st-round pick does. You know what I mean? Like, you have the option, you can do whatever.
I mean, if he was a free agent, I would say it all depends on the market and the money. You'd have to be super careful about it. I mean, look at this Knicks team that's playing really well right now. I would say RJ Barrett, quickly have been very good. But then other than that, there's no, you know, it's none of the draft picks that have played. It's more of the veterans that are there. They're kind of just being really well coached right now. And the Randall decision will be huge. So I would my lean would be no at this point, but at the same time, if
he's got one more year. I saw they have the team option for next year, 1.8, so it's nothing. So they'll bring him back.
Oh, they'll have to bring him back. Then I mean, at that point, obviously
he's got 1 year to. Yeah, 1.8, nothing.
But if he was a free agent and he had a market where people were offering him like insane amount of money, if you're the Knicks and you're building this young foundation, would you want to eat up your cap with him? I mean, for the output that he's giving you now, I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't fill up the stat sheet. Has like these incredible plays where it just makes you like drool as a fan. Yeah. Like, you know, he's blocking shots, he's dunking it, he's D'ing people up on the perimeter, he's blocking 3-pointers. It's like, you're just like, oh my God, he's handling the ball on the break and dunking it up. You're just like, oh my God, the potential of this guy is through the roof. But at some point, like, you got to make a decision. And are you going to pay this guy $15-20 million a year? Like, you know what I mean? You can't yet. You can't rely on him. You know, he's not healthy, and he hasn't been healthy. And this is his second surgery this year. And like, the injury is getting worse and worse. And like, this is a guy that I would consider injury prone. I'm sorry. I mean, you would probably too. You know what I mean? It's just, he's that kind of lanky kind of guy, sort of like a Porzingis that, you know, is just always going to be all over the place. You know what I mean? So
he sounds like a, you know, an older version of Nick Claxton.
Yeah. He wishes, you know, he wishes.
Oh my God. Do I love Nick Claxton? Everything comes back to Nick Claxton. Dolan,
everything.
Jay Trump on Twitter will always be like, he hates Claxton. He hates the love that he gets. He gets so annoyed by that.
Oh yeah, man. Amy Dash has been dunking on him, man. Oh man,
boy.
That's great.
Last episode,
crushing him.
I mean, she exposed Dolan. What's there to say there? I mean, they really, you know, we learned a lot about him and that this whole hat gimmick.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
I mean, listen, she was mad, and she got her point across, and she's rubbing it in, and they're playing along, and it's all in fun, and they're having a good time.
Dolan, I hate you. I do want to talk about the Knicks Heat for a second.
Right.
More about the Miami Heat social media. Now, I had mentioned in the past on an episode, like, it's just some schmuck behind an account, but it's, you know, the account's the whole Miami Heat franchise.
Right.
That's making, like, you know, he's like doing these tweets. So clearly, obviously, the Miami Heat like this. And what they did was they had the one tweet where there was that Knick video that went viral of the fans celebrating outside the Garden, and they took that video, a win versus, I can't remember who, you will, and so will you?
I don't remember which game it was. Yeah, there was one they hit 500. I don't remember who they beat. I know, I suck. Whatever.
They put this on one of the Knicks fans. They put a Miami Heat logo. So you saw that video again. And it was the Heat, like not celebrating tonight. And then they had a second social.
It wasn't even good. It wasn't even a good thing. Yeah.
And then they had a second one. And this one irritated me more because that one's just classic trolling. This I was like, I completely disagree with. They showed a video of a Knick fan. Who was it, getting Jimmy Butler's jersey? Do you know whose jersey it was?
Some fan. Jimmy Butler gave some Knicks fan wearing, I think he was wearing a Quickly jersey, Jimmy Butler's jersey, and the fan was just so excited. He was young. He wasn't like a kid, like 10 years old. He was like probably early 20s, teenager. I'm not sure, but he seemed young.
I don't care how old you are.
He was excited, and he was like, "Oh my God!" He dapped up, and maybe his dad or whoever he's with. I don't remember the video off the top of my head, but he was excited. Jimmy Butler looked at him and said, "Here, take this, kid." Threw him his jersey. Okay. Like, that's awesome.
So then the Heat Twitter threw shade at the Knicks, like wanting the Miami jerseys. Like, okay, could you imagine, Alex, if you were at the Garden in the 90s and Tim Hardaway threw his game-worn jersey at you?
Well, that I'd probably throw back in his face.
Oh, come on.
Wrong guy.
Okay, I think the wrong guy.
Yeah, but a non-rivalry game.
You wouldn't take that?
Game. Regular season, I would take it. I'd be like, oh, crap, this is awesome.
Tim Hardaway's game-worn jersey. I don't care how much you hate another team. I'm telling you, Paul Pierce Celtics is giving me his jersey. I'm the biggest Paul Pierce fan for 24 hours. Give me a break.
Right. And like I said on Twitter, I was like, not only does this guy now have a Jimmy Butler game-worn jersey, but he has video proof that he has Jimmy Butler game-worn jersey. You know how much money that is going to be worth now if he wants to sell it? Like, go on eBay right now and sell it, unless he wants to put it in a frame. But like, listen, you could sell that thing, and you never know what you can get for that. You know, it's pretty cool. You know, so
yeah.
And people are stupid, man. We're saying people are stupid. They just like it's this gotcha culture, and like, you know, hey, I called them out, I got them. You know, it's just like, you know, sometimes you do get somebody, and you got to be like, you know, I got you, but like that, you don't look for reasons. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
bad karma for something later. Like if the Knicks and Heat met each other in the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
I'm all, you know me.
You're
I'm like, don't touch the money, man. Just stay away. Don't make comments. Not even after wins. Like I just don't do that. That's just not my style.
The Heat are
really
scary, man. The Heat are scary.
They're
though.
Very
like
good.
if you take away the social media, like they're a scary team. Yeah. You know, they have Oladipo now coming. Yeah, well coached, one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he's probably the longest tenured coach at this time. Well, besides Pop, right? So him
probably Pop then him, I would think.
And Doc Rivers has been on different teams. So I don't know if he counts.
No, he's on. He's on Philly now. So
yeah, so he doesn't count. But he's been bounced. He's been in the NBA a long time, long tenured, but not with one team. But you know, so they're
Terry
coming, man.
Stotts?
They
I
were
don't know.
they were in the finals last year.
Yeah.
And they probably were exhausted. Jimmy Butler looked exhausted in the bubble at the end of the finals. The whole team was probably just like, ugh, another season. Like we needed like a month like to just rest, and recharge their batteries.
Yeah.
But
they've been very
they're coming.
hit by the injury bug bad. And then the COVID bug as well. Like the Nets played the Heat twice this year, both games without Jimmy Butler. So they beat him both times, but it's like a very different Miami team. Bam Adebayo's a stud. Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo. I mean, they've got options. They're well coached. They're going to be a pain in the ass. And that's why I am a big proponent of the Nets getting the 1 seed right now. And I didn't think I'd be that into it. I really didn't. Well, maybe I'm kind of contradicting myself here because I guess it depends which seed the Heat fall to, because if you're the Sixers, Bucks, or Nets, one of those teams are gonna have to see each other in the second round. So the Heat avoiding the 4 and 5 spot, and 6 down is a big deal. I think if you're a Nets fan listening to this and thinking about a second round matchup.
No, it's true. You have to worry about that stuff. You can't go into the playoffs with this feeling of like, who cares about the regular season and blase.
No, the Nets have to play. Alex.
They have to play together.
Durant out there. They have to get Durant out there.
They have to gel.
It's almost like at this point, I would almost like if there's no Durant, fine, let's go to battle with this team, which I still think could be good enough to get to a finals. I don't think that'd be impossible because of just how good Harden's been. But I mean, to put them over the top, it's just you got to incorporate Durant. And I'll tell you this, if they don't play enough in the regular season, I don't think they have a shot in the playoffs. They need to get reps together. They need to have a vibe together. Because right now, it's James Harden's team, and it's not Kevin Durant's. It's not even a question.
Kevin Durant's an executive right now. He's not even a player on the team. He's an executive. Hasn't played in 2 months. He's played 3 games in 2 months, 2.5 months. Like he hasn't really. He's not a part of the team. I mean, he's organizing, getting people to play, and he's probably telling them he'll be fine. But until he's on the court, you can't say he'll be fine. Until they're all on the court together, you can't say they'll be fine. Like the Clippers did this last year, and they rested everybody. Kawhi was going to Vegas and doing whatever he wanted while everybody was doing whatever and getting mad. And look what happened. I know the bubble and the circumstances, but like
I agree.
They should have went further. Yeah.
They got to play together. And hopefully the next week Durant's back and we get, 20, 25 games of him and we can see it. And I do think that would be enough. I really do because they're that talented.
They're that good.
But they can't just flip a switch. It's not going to work.
Yeah. They can't just show up round 1, game 1, and they're all together for the
Especially
first
like
time.
Miami.
Yeah. No.
Eric Spoelstra is going to be like slapping him around with his brain. I mean, it's not going to work. It's annoying.
And you said the last podcast, the Bucks are scary too. People are just like, the Bucks, whatever. I mean, the Sixers with Embiid, he's always hurt, so you can kind of like you feel like you can take him. But the Bucks are a scary team, man, because this is a force, man.
I know.
And they're a scary team, man.
No, they're good
right now. You playing the Celtics in the first round too. That's not if the playoffs started.
They're all
today.
Tough.
Yeah, the Celtics are. I mean, they're having an off year, but. They're still the Celtics, man. They still have Tatum. They still have Brown. They still have some guys. Marcus Smart's still there. He wasn't traded. You still have some guys there, man. And didn't they just get Fournier too?
I think he was like 0 for 10 in his debut.
He's not. He's one of those guys that looks like a great shooter, but isn't.
He kills the Nets.
He's a good shooter, but he's not great. You would think you look at him, you're like, wow. Like Danny Green's one of those guys too. You like look at them, and you're like, oh my god, this guy's a great shooter. And you look at his stats, you're like, actually, he's not really that.
It is funny though. There's some players you like they never miss. Danny Green's one of those guys. Like I don't think I've ever seen Danny Green miss.
Hot. Yeah.
Is he really a 40% shooter from 3? I mean, that's good, but that means he missed 60% of them. That game against the Knicks, he didn't miss.
He was great. Yeah,
in New York, he hit some clutch shots.
Yeah, no, he did great. Well, yeah, he's coming home, Long Island guy. You know what I mean? That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens. These Long Island guys, they come back and they just wreak havoc.
And they just kill us, right? Yeah, it's whatever. Like Julius Randle shooting 42% from deep right now, and you would think that's like that's pretty good, and that's kind of what Danny Green's 3-point percentage is.
Different threes though that they're taking, just the way they get the shot.
Right. I know what you mean. Like it's not like off the dribble Danny Green's 44% now, so a little bit, but it's around the same amount. You know what I mean? It's like you would think he was way more, but anyway, whatever.
Anyway. All right, Alex, you got the jersey number game and then the poll question, and then at some point we'll have to flip this up. It is fun because I only get to do the trivia, which I now feel bad about.
Yeah, we'll have to switch it up.
You
After
get
55, we
56.
have none for. Is it 56? No, we're at 55.
No, next week you get 56.
There is no 56, so we'll have to do
Perfect.
something quirky for that. So, all right. So you want to do Knicks or Nets first?
Knicks.
Knicks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Knicks.
All right. So number 55, he played from 89 to 92. He has been an executive in the NBA on multiple teams since his career has been over. He may work in the league office now.
Kiki
I'm not sure,
Vanderway.
but he's still involved in the NBA. Kiki Vanderway, you are absolutely right. That was an easy one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see if I can give you a different one, a harder one. Yeah, too many. I should have saved some clues. Let's see. One more from the Knicks because you got that one really quick. Okay, so 2018, he was a point guard. Only played one season for the Knicks. He been around the block. He's been on a bunch of teams.
This is harder for me.
Went to Georgia Tech. He actually played for the Nets too.
Jarrett Jack?
Yep, Jared Jack. That's it.
All right.
You got it. Good job.
That sounds like a guy you'd be
Good
pissed
job.
off they signed.
Yeah, I guess so. And of course, let's not forget the GOAT, number 55 on both of our teams, Dikembe Mutombo. But okay, so Nets number 55, obviously Jason Williams. You're in Mutombo, you would have gotten to. Okay. So now your boy, this is your boy. I know this is your boy. You actually probably when he was on the team from 2008 through 2010. So 2008, 2009 season and 2009, 2010 season. So 2 seasons. Started close to 30 games in the 2 years. Fringe point guard, backup point guard. Let me stop giving clues. See if you can think about it for a little bit.
Fringe backup point guard from 08 to 2010. This is when the team started to go kapooey.
Yeah.
Backup point guard. Man, I should know, but this is like my worst era of Nets. I'll be honest. This little pocket.
You were kind of down on them, right? For moving to Brooklyn. You're kind of like
I don't know. Just this is when I moved to Virginia, and I would say this was my least watched Nets years. I'll put it that way.
You didn't spring for the package to watch the Nets.
So I missed a few. So now people are like, oh, losing credibility here. Oh my
big
God.
fan, yeah.
Big fan you are. Who is? Or one more clue, and then I'll try to guess.
He was on those Clippers teams in the early 2000s that had
Keon Dooling.
There you go. And you get it with that. That was a guy. Good guy though, man. I like
That's
him.
how I've texted Keon Dooling to come on CBS Sports Radio. Never responded.
Yeah. Never responded? Come on.
Didn't get back to me.
Up.
It's funny how the brain gets triggered when you're like Clipper and it jumped in my head. I wonder, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Kind of weird, right?
Yeah, we got to switch these up. Yeah. No, it is weird. Let me do a Mets one for you since we had Alyssa Rose on the podcast.
God, now
one
I'm
quick
not
Mets
gonna get
one.
this. Yeah.
You'll get it. So, maybe not actually. He was a Mets reliever from 2010 through 2013, lefty. He was one of Evan Roberts, one of a friend of the show, favorite relievers.
From which years?
Favorite guys. From forever, 2010 through 2013. It says that. I don't know if it was even that long, but he was on the team for forever. I feel like he was that guy. He pitched every single day.
I have no clue.
2010 to 2013.
Who is it?
He's off the team for 2 years here and there. Come on, try. Just try. Just
it's not Turk Wendell, but I want to say that. That's way before then.
No, Pedro Feliciano.
Yeah,
Feliciano.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, that was Evan's boy. I remember him always talking about that on the radio. Had to do a Mets one in honor of Alyssa. I'm killing you, huh?
Yeah, you're exposing me on this podcast, asshole.
Oh, I'm sorry. So whatever. So there's no 56 through whatever 60 something with the Knicks and Nets. So we'll do some fun jersey number trivia.
Okay.
We'll keep it going with some new things. Maybe you'll ask me a question for once, because I don't have to just act like the smart one. I know everything. I'm asking the questions. I know all the answers. You know what I mean?
All right.
So anyway,
who did the Knicks? Which college did?
Oh, I'm not good with colleges.
Which college did Lance Thomas go to?
Duke.
Did he? I don't know.
Yes, he did. That was an easy one.
Which college did? Nah, this is too tough for you. I won't do Ewing. Which college did? All right, I'll shut up. Maybe I'll think of something for next week. We'll have fun. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll do something fun. Okay, so the Knicks poll question, weekly Knicks poll question. You respond. I'll read some of your responses on the air at Knicks Central, like I said earlier in the podcast. So Knicks fans, can the Knicks rely on Mitchell Robinson as their center of the future? Please explain your answer. I did not say please, but explain your answer. Yes or no? What do you think won?
Yes.
Yes, by
61-49.
Wow, that was close, but 61% is not 61-49.
61-39. That's what I meant. You know what I meant.
No,
Knicks
really
fans just so good, Alex. They get over 100%. They're such a good fan
all the
base.
time, everything. So 61% said yes, 38.8% said no. A couple of shout outs to my boy Ant. He's at Anthony the Don. He goes, he's played 80% of his games like in his career. This year he's had some rather fluky injuries, which is true. He's had some fluky injuries. 2 surgeries that are on plays that, it can happen to anybody. But you know what? Connection again, Travis Darno, same thing. He would always get hit by a pitch or something that was just like, it wasn't like his joints were failing him, but he was always hurt. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those guys, and that's just you're injury prone, just follows you. So I have my guy Mikey. He's at Mikel Gorby 8. He goes, why not? Performance on the court is good enough, and he's barely been injured. And when he is, it's freak stuff. Like he plays like he's incredible freak. The freak thing I think is thrown around too much to players. Like he's a freak. You know what I mean? Like
Giannis
is a freak. Yeah, but he's a freak. But then remember, it was like Javon Curse, the Titans defensive end, a long time. He was called the freak, I think. And it was just like freak is like one of those like, oh, he's a freak. Like, why would you want to call someone a freak? Like a freak of nature, I get it. But
it's a freak in a positive way. Like I'm not saying Alex, you freak. How about if I was like your basketball knowledge is freaky?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a positive. I guess it could be, but I don't know if that's a positive. Anyway,
take the compliment.
Guy Coonies. What? What'd you say?
Take the compliment.
Thank you. I am freaky knowledge as I burp. So as Coonies, our boy Coonies, he's at Kunal ____. He goes, I'll give him the final year of his contract before deciding. I'm assuming we pick up his team option, which of course they will, 1.8 million. All depends how he comes back from this mentally and physically. So he's got a point. He could come back and be like, ugh, another injury, whatever.
It's true,
but
it's a lot.
It is a lot, but he's so young. What is he, 22? I mean, like,
that's true.
I think he's 22. Don't quote me on that.
No, he's a baby. Bottom, he's not 34. I'm not saying anybody's name because I don't want anything to happen. But he's not a veteran player, and it's like, this sucks. I mean, it still sucks, but he definitely has the capability to come back and have a full career from this point forward.
No, it's true. It's just one of those things. It's just I don't know. It's hard to. It's all subjective. It could be my PTSD coming in and hurting my thoughts of what I'm gonna, with Marcus Camby, like we talked about before, of why I don't want to commit, why I don't want to give up on him, but I also don't want to stop that from me from putting him in a deal to get like a real star. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to give up something like Jared Allen, Karis LeVert. You have to give up somebody to get a guy like James Harden. Like you have to do that, and if you can, then sure, So whatever. Anyway, so next one we have young Philip Seymour. He's at Don't Call Me ATG. Unfortunately, injuries have shortened his season, so we have not seen any defensive leap in his game. Need a center who can make an impact on both ends of the floor. This isn't to say he won't, and maybe this is his last injury, but we can't rely on that and should have a plan B, which is perfectly said. Perfectly said. So
it's that's your burner for this podcast.
Yes, that's my burner. Actually, this guy, he's pretty cool. I think he works at Yahoo Fantasy Sports. He's messaged me before. It's pretty cool. So anyway, so next one we have my boy, actually a friend of mine, Philip Devin. He's at That Good Agent. He's actually the Phil that named our podcast. Remember I told you that?
Yes, of course. Oh yeah.
Philip Q.
No,
Devin.
I do remember. I'm being serious.
Yeah, he goes, I say no because he's too short. Also, I have no clue about him or basketball. So
that's a great point. That's fair.
Really good point.
Right to it.
Yes.
Bad Weather fans named after that guy. Beautiful.
He's a diehard Jaguars fan. I'll put it that way. That's all he cares about is football. Who
does he want in the number one? I'm just joking. Go ahead. Move forward.
Phil, just one funny thing about Phil. He's a big historian of the Battle of Wounded Knee, like a big Wounded Knee guy.
Yeah, I knew that about Phil.
Yeah, that's my guy.
That's Phil.
So anyway.
He's great once you get to know him. I'm guessing.
Yes, no, he's great.
Yeah,
grew up in my
guy.
block. Great guy.
Go Phil.
So anyway, so that's it. That's all the responses I have for right now.
We ended with Phil.
That's what we ended. We need one more. We need a good
No, that's fine. We can end with Phil. I'm just kidding.
No,
Phil's great.
Let's give one real one. Okay, here we go. Peter Cohen. He's at Peter Cohen. Great skills, great attitude. Sure, there are aspects of his game that will take some time to develop, but as it is, you have an elite rim protector who shoots at a very high percentage, who could benefit from better point guard play. Should be Lob City all the time. which is true. But that's something Knicks fans have been saying for 30 years. All we need is a point guard. So, I mean,
well, we have 2. So, yeah.
Yes, thanks.
That's no problem. Is the next time we're going to be doing this after another Nick game?
Yeah, next Monday, right?
Yeah. God.
I want to go to the game so badly, man. I want to go, but like it's just not worth it to go through all the hoops you got to do to just go to the freaking game and sit with them. I've been to enough games in my life that I don't need to put myself through that, especially for a regular season game.
Yeah,
playoffs, maybe we'll talk, but I can't do it right now.
All right, so
are you ready to go to a game? Are you ready to go to a game?
Once if I'm vaxxed, well, yeah, when I'm vaccinated, I'll do it.
That's cool. And speaking of games, football going NFL officially 17 games this year. I feel like we already knew that was going to happen, but now it's official.
Yes.
So more games for you to go to if you have the 9th game at your home stadium.
And
I don't know if
people will complain now how stupid it is, but then love it when it's here.
Right.
Like everything else that happens with this
there will never be a 500 team ever again in the NFL with 19 games.
Well, there could be a tie.
Yeah, I guess. But is that officially 500 even, or is it like a weird percentage?
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So it's just straight up 500. Maybe a mathematician. Tweet me. Let me know. Tell me how stupid I am for not understanding. People love to tell me how stupid I am. So
I'm one of them. It's a blast.
Yes,
I encourage it. So much fun. Makes you feel better about yourself. That's why I like it.
Right. I'm going to tweet all in caps just for the next week, just to piss you off.
I had turkey for lunch.
Yes, let's go.
Oh my, yes, let's go. And no mayo.
No bread right now because it's Passover.
That too. You kill me with that. All right, this has been Bad Weather Fans, episode number 55, with Mike and Alex. Thank you to Alyssa Rose for coming on the podcast. That was a lot of fun talking a little New York Mets as we are a couple of sleeps away from baseball. Coming next week, episode 56. It will be after the Nets and Knicks play each other. So that'll drop on a late Monday night or early Tuesday morning. I dread these episodes. They are not fun because it just either way, one of us is going to be in a bad mood. And I don't like that. I like when we're both in good moods.
But I do like when it's a close game. I didn't want the controversy the way it was ended and the Knicks getting hosed. But
stop it with that.
I do want a close game. Let's get it. Let's get a close game. Let's keep it close. Let's not, either way. Well, the Knicks win by 30. I'll be pretty happy. But let's just like what are you talking about? Either way, just Knicks. Let's make this a game again. Let's win this one this time. Let's take it.
All right. So we'll see you guys next time there. This has been Bad Weather Fans, episode number 55. Thank you guys for tuning in. And of course, if you're listening on the podcast, go over to YouTube, Bad Weather Fans. That's where you can find it there. Alex,
Mike,
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Awkward ending.